Recording start. Uh, Congressman, we just received this picture of the suspect accused in this horrific crime. 31-year-old man who had been a team lead at Walmart and had worked there since 2010. We have 6 people killed, 4 people hospitalized, and of course, this man taking his own life. We still haven't buried all of the victims in the UVA disaster. How do you reflect on this level of gun violence that we're seeing in our community?
Well, the gun violence isn't entirely too frequent. As you've indicated, we haven't gotten over the University of Virginia, and the Commonwealth has had many horrific incidences, starting with Virginia Tech, Virginia Beach. There are 600 mass shootings already this year, and we need to do something. Our first focus right now is on the victims. I've been in touch with the mayor and the Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security. Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice both have victim counseling services. ATF has been helping with investigations, so the federal government has been involved, providing some support. But we have to do something about gun violence. We have to recognize that there's nothing wrong about the United States, that we have to suffer this kind of gun violence. No other country suffers this kind of violence, and we need to change our laws and make sure that we do everything possible to prevent these incidences from happening.
I think, and we go back to the municipal center killing in Virginia Beach. There were, as I recall, there was some tension between that employee and the workplace. And we have another workplace killing. And I'm concerned that when there is conflict, the young people seem to think that pulling out a gun is the answer.
Well, it's gotten worse over the last few years. That violent response is acceptable. We saw it on January 6th of last year. But when you have the violent reaction, the one ingredient that makes it much more devastating than others, the presence of firearms. And we have to make sure that firearms are not in the hands of the wrong people. We have had initiatives to have background checks to limit firearms to those who are legally not entitled to have them. We've had, since Sandy Hook, we've had a task force in Congress coming up with initiatives that can do something about these mass killings. The assault weapons ban, limit the size of magazines, background checks, the crime prevention generally, mental health, but the main focus is on firearms.
And so we're looking at a new legislative session starting in January, but you have many lawmakers who are moving in the opposite direction. Look at what has happened recently in the state of Texas. They are loosening all controls on guns.
Well, I think you saw that. It's actually a partisan situation. You have about 98% of the Democrats willing to do something, about 98% of the Republicans unwilling to do anything. And the assault weapons ban, there's no reason why military assault weapons ought to be available, even to, in some areas, to teenagers. People 19 years old can buy military assault weapons. The purpose of a military assault weapon is to kill many people quickly. And why are they available? That wasn't the weapon in this case, but many of the mass shootings. And then there's no one piece of legislation that can eliminate all problems. What we can do is we can reduce the chance that these will happen. And there are a lot of things we can do to reduce the chance that these things will happen. And the assault weapons ban was one. We got 1% of the Republican conference to vote for it. And one of them is not seeking re-election. We need to stand up and decide that we're not going to take this anymore. That we're not going to accept as 600 mass shootings in the year. No country puts up with this, and so we need to do something about it.
At the rate that we're having mass shootings, we will have several more mass shootings in America before the Thanksgiving weekend is over.
You're absolutely right. I think they counted 6 since the weekend. The 600, that's more than one a day. At some point, you just have to say no, and we can't even get a meaningful background check bill. We made a little progress, a little step in the right direction this year, but the major legislation on universal background checks, you can still go to a gun show, and notwithstanding your status, buy a firearm. You got the money, you can buy a firearm, military assault weapons and everything. And so long as that's the case, you're going to have mass shootings.
Congressman, quite often when you are in the district, you're meeting with people when there are times to congratulate people. There's been an important milestone. A building is going up. Some problems in the community are going down. But in this case, if you decide to visit in the aftermath of this, you're coming in a very sad, tragic time, a very devastating incident for the district. How does it pain you to have to face your constituents in times good and bad?
Well, one thing we have to recognize is these are just mass shootings. There are other shootings going on every day. Firearm gun killings just become routine, and we have to decide whether or not we're going to continue allowing this to take place, or try to do something about it. We know there are things we can do to reduce the incidence of these shootings, and it's just not the mass shootings. I mean, shootings happen every day. That's just 600 mass shootings. That's 4 people shot in one incident. We can do better than that.
Congressman, thank you so much for joining us on this very sad occasion, and hope you have a great holiday weekend.
Well, thank you, Regina. And we're praying for the victims and the others in the store. Everyone is seeking assistance. I talked to people at Walmart corporate, and they're doing everything they can to provide the counseling for their employees, those who are direct victims and indirect victims, as well as the Department of Justice and Homeland Security. Our focus now is on the victims.
Thank you so much.
Good,
Thank you,
Regina.
Bye-bye.